The Last of Us Season 2 has done something that has clearly angered newer fans of the franchise, as they too found out what happens to Joel when the second game has now been adapted, and to say people aren't happy, that would be lying. And at this point, based on what I'm about to show you, if HBO isn't already slamming that panic button until it no longer works, they will be, cause this is a mess, fellas. Oh boy, let's get into it. But this hasn't stopped the Access Media from claiming that the reception to Season 2 has been nothing short of nuclear bad following the exit of Pedro Pascal. Again, sorry, no TV footage or HBO will gut me like a fish, so game footage it is. But let's start with Collider and their hilarious article that's titled, "The Last of Us Season 2's review bombing isn't limited to Rotten Tomatoes." I should probably just read you the opening paragraph cause oh boy, they got spicy right away. Here's what it says. "It's about time to revoke some people's internet privileges. Anybody who targets minorities and women online needs to check themselves anyway. Despite the efforts of certain platforms to prevent review bombing, trolls still seem to be getting away with it. The latest victim is HBO's The Last of Us, which, like the video game it is based on, has been targeted by individuals who seem to have a problem with women being spotlighted. The second season of the show, which premiered less than a month ago, immediately started attracting negativity from a section of the audience. They then linked to both the Rotten Tomatoes score, which you can see here for Season 2, showing that the show has a poor 50% audience rating. And here we can see on Metacritic that the show currently holds a 4.3 rating from viewers too, which is not good, I gotta say. However, right out of the gates, Collider proves that they've been hit with the stupid stick, cause they said that people have a problem when women are being spotlighted, but well, that's not actually true, is it? After all, the first season of The Last of Us and the first game went over incredibly well for pretty much everybody. It turned the game into a cultural juggernaut that revitalized the concept of zombies through the cordyceps virus. And just like Season 2, Ellie is also front and center the entire show in the first season. And people liked Ellie in the show. Sure, she looked, well, like Bella Ramsey, but her childlike demeanor played well off of Pedro Pascal's Joel. So to say that people are suddenly now bigots because the show features women is just a lie. Joel is surrounded by strong women in Season 1 and the first game quite often. So this is a non-argument that they're trying to make, because nobody hates women in the first Last of Us. But the problem with Season 2 and the game by association is that the audience out here watching this show have quickly come to realize that Ellie on her own is nowhere near as interesting or captivating than as she was when she was with Joel. Let's circle back to the first game, shall we? That game's story works because we witnessed the bond between Joel and Ellie. People grew to love them. Parents, especially fathers, understood Joel's protection and choices in that game because if it was their daughter, they would do the same. The first game's entire premise and believability rests on the stern shoulders of Joel Miller protecting this girl and getting her to where she needs to go. And it works because obviously Joel is a man in his late 40s, maybe 50s by the time we play the game. So we know that Joel would be capable of protecting himself and Ellie by association. It feels believable because you believe that when Joel does what he has to, that it could happen. He looks the part. He sounds the part. Joel is, whether people want to admit it or not, a great character. I do agree that technically Ellie is the main character of The Last of Us as a whole. I mean, she is the reason why the first game's plot even happens. That being said, Joel is equally just as much a main character as she is, which is why when the second game or season in this instance happens, and then what happens to Joel, it did cause people to riot because we weren't just losing Joel, we lost the believability and relatability that came with him too. I'll just say it how it is. Ellie going around killing people as a maybe 100-pound at best girl in the post-apocalypse, yeah, it's not the most believable thing. I mean, sure, she has guns and knives and anyone can technically use them, but what worked for Joel and not Ellie is that when someone tried to overpower Joel, we could buy into the fact that this guy had the physical strength and the know-how from surviving for years to deal with others, especially other men. With Ellie, the reality is if any man were to attack her, she would basically have zero ability to physically outdo the other guy. And it becomes even less believable when you realize the show now is doing what made players opt out of the second game too, which is they replaced Joel with a small girl named Dina, and now you're supposed to buy into the idea that two maybe not even 100-pound girls are somehow able to travel across the country and survive the horrors that are coming their way. And I'm just gonna say it how it is, the third episode of season 3 was painful to watch, and not because Joel was dead. It was painful because it proved to me that Bella Ramsey, without the presence of Pedro Pascal beside her, showed that she is, I hate to say it, but it is what it is, she's kind of a charisma vacuum. She can't lead a show like this to where it feels believable or interesting, if that makes sense, at least for me anyways. And if I was a casual viewer of this and not some jaded YouTuber making videos about it, I would have opted out of this show the moment Joel got sent to heaven via golf club myself. Because going from this believability factor of Joel and Ellie to Ellie and Dina is such a downgrade, it's kind of ridiculous. We don't even find believability that two young girls could walk down the street at night right now without something happening to them in our world. Never mind adding the whole post-apocalypse setting where laws don't even exist now and crazy cannibals are just yanking people to eat them. Following the death of Joel, the show just feels as though it has lost the believability factor that shows like this need to justify their reasons for existing. With Joel gone, not only did the show lose its biggest star and draw, what's left is so clearly not even remotely as good as it used to be. At least in the game, Ellie is played by Ashley Johnson, and she does a phenomenal job selling the believability at least somewhat that Ellie could in fact do what she's doing in this world. Ellie in the game is also far more believable looking than Bella Ramsey is too. And unfortunately for Bella Ramsey, she's just not interesting enough to want to watch for not one but 2 whole seasons of television. The show now just kind of feels like it's fan fiction, and with Pedro Pascal gone, people are leaving this show in waves. And again, the fact that Collider said people don't want to see women in prominent roles or gay people or anything like that, like come on guys, really? Ellie is in the first season, and she has an entire episode dedicated to the Left Behind DLC story where she kisses Riley. So why is it that people were totally fine with Ellie not only being a main character, but also being gay in the first season? And now places like Collider are suddenly trying to spin the story into a victimhood complex take as to why people don't want to watch season 2 now. Because Ellie is still a woman, and very much gay in the second season as she was in the first. The only difference now is she has another small girl to play off of instead of, oh, I don't know, Pedro Pascal of all people. Like, who are we kidding? As we can see here from showbiz411.com, Last of Us Season 2's viewership levels have dropped 300,000 following Episode 2's release. In terms of linear viewers, which if you don't know what that means, linear viewers are people who watch television not on demand, but when the show debuts, so they're watching it live. Anyways, the first episode saw an average of 983,000 linear viewers watching the second season as the episode debuted in real time. Then, following Joel's death, the amount of linear viewers watching in real time dropped to 643,000 viewers. So that's roughly about a 33% or 1/3 of their live audience completely dipping out following Joel's death is what this tells us. And if I had to wager, those linear viewers are likely more so the boomer generation. You know, the people who probably didn't play the games or know what happens. They just watch stuff that interests them. So HBO lost 1/3 of their audience following Joel's death. That is not good, fellas, really, no matter how you slice it. But alright, let's talk some cold hard facts, okay? The Last of Us Season 2 kicked off on April 13th, with a premiere that brought in 8.5 million viewers, which was a 13% jump from Season 1's debut. But by Episode 3 of Season 2, viewership has now reportedly gone down another 200,000 linear viewers. And that trend's probably not going to slow, meaning following Joel's death, Season 2 has basically, well, let's be real, lost about half of its viewership, if not more already. And comparing that to Season 1, which grew week after week, peaking at 8.2 million viewers for the finale, despite it releasing and competing with the Oscars at the same time. I mean, what happened exactly? Well, 3 words, everybody. No Pedro Pascal. And I can already see the HBO producers trying to calm the nerves saying, we'll be fine, but in actuality, they are not fine at all. And this isn't just a numbers game, it's a vibe shift at this point too, because season 1 was a cultural juggernaut like I said. It had 30.4 million average viewers per episode. That's HBO's Max's biggest hit in Europe and Latin America ever. And with season 2, it's like HBO forgot what made the show click. It was Pedro's soulful gruffness and Bella Ramsey's snarkiness and the chemistry between them two. But without Joel, it's just Ellie now screaming into the void, and casual fans are checking out faster than ever. And let's break down why Pedro Pascal was the beating heart of The Last of Us. First off, the dude is a walking charisma bomb for a lot of people. I'm not crazy about him, but I can't deny that he has appeal to other viewers for very obvious reasons. He's got that rugged, I've seen some stuff energy that made Joel Miller feel like a real person and not just a video game character. And whether he was smuggling Ellie or sipping coffee in a can't touch this mug look, Pedro sold every moment to a lot of people watching clearly. But Pedro's Joel wasn't just a tough guy, he was a broken dad who found purpose in Ellie. That surrogate father-daughter dynamic they had going on, yeah, it's pure gold for audiences, and they ate it up. Clearly. It's not really surprising the first season was such a big hit in Latin America for HBO either. Gee, I wonder why. Is it because Pedro Pascal is Latin American himself? Yeah, that could do it probably. But in keeping with the game's original story, HBO really thought they could just golf club their biggest star in the head and then just move on like nothing's happened. But unfortunately for them, it is not working. Look, Kaitlyn Dever's Abby, it's a good casting, but she's not carrying the show. Bella Ramsey's Ellie may be a draw for some, but without Pedro's grounding presence, it's like watching a burger without the bun. It's just a sad patty that's sliding around with nowhere to go. And don't tell me that the flashbacks are gonna be enough, because a few scenes of Pedro in sad dad mode, they aren't gonna cut it when fans wanted Joel for the long haul instead. As Tom Nash here said on Twitter, watched episode 2 of The Last of Us season 2, spoiler alert, questionable move from HBO, killing off Pedro Pascal, that's a massive loss of female 30 to 60 demographic right there, yikes, and he's right. HBO and Naughty Dog, who wrote this moronic story, are now effing around and finding out in real time as to what happens when you kill the sole reason most people would even want to watch your show in the first place. You don't alienate that fan base and expect to keep your same ratings. It's like when Marvel killed Tony Stark in Iron Man 2. Oh wait, they didn't, because they're not stupid. But they did end up killing Iron Man in Endgame, and for the most part, the MCU has limped on since, outside of maybe Spider-Man, and gee, I wonder why that would happen. Who could have guessed that killing off Iron Man, retiring Captain America, throwing Black Widow off a cliff, and then expecting characters like Miss Marvel and slop like Agatha all along would somehow get the same ratings as the characters that people actually liked? Look, I get it. I know why Collider and the usual types love Last of Us Season 2 and stuff like it, because it's everything they want from stories. It's subversive. Wow, who kills their main male hero like that and then changes the story to an almost all-female cast instead? So subversive, so daring, so forward-thinking, they say. Except it didn't work for the games either. Sure, the critics love the game because they are just like Collider. They just want and love more female-focused media, and they just really want to see all the male characters die. But the audience even then checked out. The game sold 40% less than the first game, the same way most people walked away from the MCU once Iron Man died too. The point here is whether they want to be daring or not, the realistic end goal here is if you kill the reason why people are invested, it makes them no longer need to show up anymore in the future. It's like owning an ice cream shop, you know? Oh, people love ice cream. But sorry, now they're suddenly selling leather wallets. But you wanted ice cream. You guys are known for selling wallets. Why are you selling wallets all of a sudden? I mean, sure, but isn't it subversive of them to suddenly change what they were known for? Isn't that daring? Where are you going? Oh, you're just gonna go get ice cream somewhere else? Well, now you're a bigot because you don't want to support these people for being so daring, and that's how these people sound, and it makes no sense. It's like a barbecue place suddenly rebranding to being vegan overnight and not telling their customers nor their staff it's financial and rating you know what. So why did HBO think this was a smart move? Let's put on our tinfoil hats and dive into the showrunner's brain for a second here. So Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann, the so-called mastermind masterminds behind season 1 decided to stick to The Last of Us Part 2's story, where Joel gets brutally offed early. Fair enough, game fans knew it was coming, but here's the problem: TV isn't a video game. In a game, you are Joel, so his death hits like a personal betrayal, but on TV, you're just watching Pedro Pascal get pummeled, and it just feels like HBO's flipping you off while pissing on the corpse while they do it. And the difference in the game, at least, is the game is a singular product. People buy into it, and then they have this complete experience that they can play following Joel dying. However, in magical TV land, people gotta wait a week. And when there's something upsetting like that, clearly they're just not gonna show up. You had almost 1 million non-linear viewers in your opening episode, and you have then lost over 500,000 of those people after you killed Joel. How is any of this a good idea? The point is that you don't nuke your lead in episode 2 unless you got a solid bulletproof plan. And HBO's plan? Lean harder into Ellie's revenge arc and Abby's perspective. Cool in theory, but the execution's messier than a clicker's face. And HBO's marketing, it didn't help them either. They hid Joel's death in trailers, just like how Naughty Dog used false trailers and scenes to make it seem like Joel was in the game in scenes where he wasn't, and they instead went on focusing with Ellie and Abby to avoid spoilers. Smart move, maybe in theory, but it also set up false expectations. And TV is not like a video game. When you subvert expectations, there needs to be a tangible reason for people to want to show up to keep supporting your show that, let's be real, you lied to them. And HBO made the non-game fans think that Pedro was in it for the long haul, not a 2-episode cameo at best. So when that twist dropped, HBO underestimated how much Pedro's star power carried that show, and now they're paying the price. Pedro Pascal has said himself in interviews that he's in active denial about Joel's death, and Bella Ramsey admitted to sobbing over the script. And if the cast is this wrecked about it, imagine the viewers right now. This creative decision to kill Joel has indeed caused what I could only call HBO's own red wedding moment. And they're definitely panicking behind the scenes at how poorly this is going over for them. And the other problem for this show is its pacing. Season 2's only 7 episodes, by the way, in case you didn't know. And they're not even halfway through part 2's story at this point. That means we're stuck in Ellie's revenge spiral for a while, which feels heavy without Joel's levity to be there. HBO's likely banking on the flashbacks. Pedro's confirmed to return in some of them. But if they're just crumbs, fans still won't bite, and Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann need to lean into the ensemble now. I mean, you have Gabriel Luna playing Tommy and Isabel Merst playing Dina, and they are criminally underused so far. And giving them more screen time might fill the Pedro-sized hole. Maybe. I know Tommy shows up later, but if you ask me if there's one change they should have made here, it's probably this. They should have replaced Dina in the show with Tommy instead. At least then it could have mimicked the dynamic between Joel and Ellie. If at the very least another very capable older man would then accompany Ellie that she could then play off of. And at least then audiences would feel the softened blow, because Tommy, in my opinion, is a great character, even in the game, and he is also very underutilized there too. And the fact you got someone like Gabriel Luna of all people to play him in the show and then relegate him for the most part to the background, it's just stupid in my opinion. Obviously, in the long term, HBO's got to rethink season 3 going forward. Let's just admit that right now. Because without a clear hook, the show's at risk of becoming The Walking Dead 2.0. Zombies and vibes, but really no soul, because the general audience couldn't care less anymore. And really, that's always the worst thing that can happen to any franchise. If people hate stuff that you're doing, at the very least, they're still invested. Because love and hate, like one of my favorite bands, Iron Maiden, once said in one of their songs, there's a thin line between those emotions. But what you really don't want is for your franchise to enter apathy, because apathy is where things really go to die. Look at Star Wars right now. Nobody cares about Andor Season 2 or really anything being made with that franchise. And if fans were at least mad with Star Wars, it could mean they would still watch it to some degree. But when they don't even care, now you're just spending millions making content that collects dust virtually because no one wants to watch your slop at all. And if you ask me, that's the worst fate you can have when it comes to your franchises. And The Last of Us game-wise has already for many entered that state, and now the modern audience, or however you want to word them, is also entering that same state, albeit even quicker than HBO probably anticipated. And Collider had more stupid things to say like this: the negativity is being targeted at stars Bella Ramsey and Caitlin Dever, while Pedro Pascal, whose character Joel, spoiler alert, was killed in the second episode, seems to be doing doing just fine. After the release of the video game, it was actor Ashley Johnson who was singled out by the trolls. Are you noticing a trend? Any film or show with even mildly progressive politics seems to irritate the sort of people who were likely to spend time venting about these things online. Ah, how wrong you are, Collider. People don't hate Ellie or even Abby, they just hate bad writing. Female characters have existed in video games since before many of us were even born. And what made those female characters so beloved? Oh right, it was because they were written well and the stories they were in were actually good. Season 2 seems to lack both of those things in spades, doesn't it? But I guess Collider doesn't want to lose their access. After all, that's what they feel legitimizes them as a website. So I guess it's better in their eyes to attack the viewers who support them than the so-called hand that feeds, right? Then in this paragraph here, which I won't read, but here it is on screen, Collider tries to say what's happening with The Last of Us Season 2 is similar to stuff like 2016's all-female Ghostbusters or Captain Marvel. Ah yes, Captain Marvel, the movie that made $1 billion. That one definitely got boycotted, alright. Sure, its sequel, The Marvels, failed, but that's cause it lacked the hype of Endgame to support it, which the first Captain Marvel had. But all the examples that Collider brings up here are just cope. You can't replace bad writing and poor character development by saying it's cause people are bigoted when clearly other female-led content has flourished. Just admit that you don't know what you're talking about, and what you're really mad at is that the world has resoundingly rejected your political mumbo-jumbo en masse. And no amount of pressing a panic button or calling people bigots is really gonna change their viewpoints. It just shows that, like most access media, Collider here lacks both a spine and a soul in equal measure. Collider does end their article saying at least critics are sticking up for season 2, but since when did the general audience care what critics think most anyways? Most of those people are just paid shills who deliberately soften their reviews on content only so these companies continue to give them access so they can still feel legitimized themselves. We all know it. Is it really any surprise that the critics who got sent the entire season of television liked it? Of course they did. Because if they didn't, their name would get crossed off the list when the next inevitable season of television or some movie releases in the future. And nothing makes a critic feel sadder than knowing that their other critic buddies are getting free access when they aren't. Well, why did she get a free swag bag? Why did he get sent to the premiere and not me? It's a Schmeat measuring contest for these people. Look at me, I barely get free access to anything. I gotta pay with my own money and time most of the time. But hey, at least I can say what I want and how I feel without having some company breathing down my neck and massaging my shoulders going, you better say something nice or no free games for you. Cool, go ahead, revoke my access. Like any of that means anything to me anyways. You gotta realize that with places like Collider white knighting for season 2 of The Last of Us, whose name now could either be a literal meaning for how few people are left watching this show now, is that by attacking your audience like this and calling them buzzwords and whatnot, you're doing nothing but ruining your credibility and reputation in the future. And really, that's what's most important if you ask me. Why do you think people don't take IGN or GameSpot or PC Gamer or Kotaku seriously anymore? It's because they tank their credibility. Why do you think websites are dropping like flies and journalists are butthurt having to resort to working as waitresses instead because nobody will hire them anymore? Gee, maybe if you didn't attack the hands that fed you so often, you'd still be working probably. That's a thought, but what do I know, right? I mean, I've never worked at IGN or Kotaku myself, but at least I have my soul intact and I don't gotta lie to people to keep my job. Look, The Last of Us Season 2 is bad, alright? And if people are checking out of this show in the hundreds of thousands in terms of dwindling viewership like this doesn't make the future of the show very confident if you ask me. I guess it really was a bad idea to kill your A-list actor and think people would want to stick around watching a goblin and her new friend go hunting people in Washington. This entire scenario is the epitome of screwing around and finding out, isn't it? And at this point, the panic button, it probably doesn't even work anymore because it's stuck in place. And they're clicking it, but it no longer works, and HBO's likely wishing that they went in a different direction with this show. But Neil Druckmann would never let that happen, because to change Part 2's story would be to admit defeat, that he was wrong all along with how he took this story. But I guess the hard-headed hubris of Neil Druckmann, who didn't even direct the first game, is more valuable to someone like him than keeping the hundreds of people employed whose livelihoods depend on this show's success. But I guess those people's lives and families and futures don't matter as long as we get to own the chuds, right, Neil? Good luck with the rest of your season, you morons, because you are clearly going to need it. But what do you think? Is everything fine, or are they cooked? What about Collider thinking that you're all bigots even though you aren't? Let me know in the comments, subscribe, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.